Hello and welcome to Playlists, a 9-part series of programmes exploring different musical genres. My name's Andrew and I'm with the Irene Taylor Trust. Since 1995, we've been working with prisoners, former prisoners and young people in the community. Through creating original music, our musicians work alongside these groups to support them in telling their stories. We believe that creating music collaboratively can have a powerful and positive impact on people's lives. Each of these 9 programmes will focus on one broad genre of music, with a viewpoint to introducing you to different styles of music you might not have heard of and some artists that might be new to you. We've done this to give you a chance to listen to new music as well as learn a little bit more about different genres, which might open your ears to different styles of music you hadn't previously thought of listening to. It might also help you to develop your own songwriting, if that's something you do. Some of the genres we'll be covering include hip-hop, grime, classical, rock and global. So some you'll know and others you'll be less familiar with. You'll have the opportunity to listen and respond to some of the songs in this episode. So if you want to write down your answers or take notes, feel free to grab a pen now. If not, sit back and enjoy. In this episode, we'll be focusing on house music. We'll be exploring the history of the genre, notable house DJs and tracks, as well as hearing an original piece of music that's been specially created for this programme. I'll be joined by musicians to discuss different aspects of the genre, which will give you ideas if at any stage you have the inspiration to write a track in this style. I'm joined by Sara Lee, the Artistic Director of the Irene Taylor Trust, who has been delivering and overseeing the running of music projects in prisons for over 35 years. Hello, Sara.
Hello, Andrew.
Sara, in this episode we're focusing on house music. As a genre which is light on lyrical content, I wonder, does this genre crop up much in your work?
Well, when it's suggested as a track, we have to spend time with the group speaking through how it's possible to kind of recreate something which is almost exclusively down to electronic instruments. And what we have to do is replicate that, but we have to allow the music to keep its vibe. So having drum machines and also synths does help that. But also, because house is a fusion of lots of different kinds of music, it doesn't really matter if the music that we create is also a kind of mishmash of styles, really, I suppose.
House is a genre of electronic dance music that was born in Chicago in the 1980s. It nearly always has a 4/4 time signature and a tempo between 110 and 140 beats per minute. Its sound was developed in clubs around New York and London before gaining popularity around the world. House music's earliest form was created by Francis Grosso, who is best known for inventing the technique of beat matching. He was the first ever DJ to mix 2 early disco records together to create a non-stop groove. He's also believed to be the first DJ to mix one record on top of another, a technique that would come to form the very basis of dance music as we know it. DJ Frankie Knuckles is another notable pioneer of the genre and is often referred to as the godfather of house music. His club, The Warehouse, was at the forefront of house music and played the new style of continually mixing records to create an unbroken beat. The first house music records to be released was On and On by Jesse Saunders in 1984. In 1987, the introduction of the Roland TB-303 bass synthesizer, along with the TR-909, TR-808 and the Juno 106, had given house a harder edge. The basses and rhythms were no longer live recordings on records, but were electronic creations sequenced on these machines. Over the following years, house music mutated and diversified into many sub-genres including progressive house, hard house, deep house, acid house, and funky house, to name but a few. Today, house music remains a hugely popular form of dance music and continues to play with the remixing of non-house styles into the genre by placing them on top of a house beat. So, here we are. Next, we'll be talking with a series of musicians who work with the Irene Taylor Trust to get a greater idea of what makes up this genre of music. Hi, so I'm joined by Emma, who is one of our musicians, and Reese, who's been working with us since its release, to talk more about house music. So I'm curious, what are the other genres of music that house takes its inspiration from? Emma, I might come to you with that first.
Yeah, sure. So house music takes early house music takes quite a lot of inspiration from funk tracks and early disco tracks, actually. So it sprung out of the death of disco, basically. So disco had a massive scene, and it was becoming so like over commercialized that everyone decided we hate disco. We don't like it anymore. It's not what it started out as. So like in the 1979, there was a big death of disco burning of like a big pile of records at a baseball match in America. And then kind of out of that, like the underground house scene started to emerge. So the idea of like continual dance music. So you have that DJ Frankie Knuckles, who would play track after track of like funk and disco music. And it was like non-stop, this kind of new scene of non-stop music. And also the idea of kind of placing tracks on top of each other. So that hadn't really happened before. Like, it was just like a kind of new scene. So yeah, definitely early house music was out of funk and disco.
So born out of the death of disco.
Yeah.
We have this sort of continual music that would layer songs on top. Reese, to come to you, what sort of house tracks or artists were the first to draw you into the genre?
To tell the truth, I started listening to house music in the 90s. But there were so many different artists that I didn't even know what genre they was coming from. Like, I would say there's a lot of people though. I could say David Zowie is one of the newer ones I like now. Robin S from the 90s. There were so many though. There's so many different artists that I liked, and I would still listen to now. Shapeshifters, The Source. Frankie Knuckles, I said as well, but one of my favourites as well, I think from nowadays, or coming up towards nowadays, was Purple Disco Machine. It was one of my favourites because they used a lot of stuff. They used a song was made like a soul song, which was really cool as well. And the guy's voice in it was unbelievable.
So Reese, I mean, you've named off quite a few tracks there and quite a few artists, and we'll come to Emma in a moment to find out a bit more about what her, I guess, ideal artists are. But when you think about a house track, for you, what sort of epitomizes the best kind of house track? What are you looking out for? What are you listening for in a good house track?
Definitely Robin S. Robin S.'s song, Love Me, I think is one of the best songs. I think for me, it sticks out always. I think everyone knows this song as well. Just, it's one of them songs. Catches your eye straight away. Catches your ear, sorry, not your eye, catches your ear.
I am here. Let's come to Emma. Emma, so who are those, I guess, big players in house music? Who are the founding mothers and fathers of it?
So I guess your kind of more recent ones are going to be your Daft Punk. They're kind of like at the forefront of like the kind of modern era of house music. But there are some recent ones that have kind of really come to light. So you've got Kygo, who had a big track called Firestone a few years back, and then most recently the Whitney Houston Higher Love track, which has kind of been everywhere. So I think kind of like the newer artists have started to cover other tracks and take those top lines from like the big tracks that have been before, and started to create something new, something that's kind of like a bit more kind of generically dance music. But yeah, I'd definitely say those guys.
Excellent. And to drill into house music a bit further, what are sort of the drum patterns that one would expect to hear in a house track? Is there anything specific about them, about the quality of them?
Yeah, sure. So they are often an electronic sounding beat. So they've got like a 4 to the floor kick pattern. So that kind of like doof, 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 doof sound that kind of underpins the rhythm to it. Then you've also kind of got your offbeat hi-hats, so that kind of sound, and then a snare basically. So yeah, I mean, the earlier house music that would have sampled the funk and disco tracks. So those beats would have been a bit more acoustic sounding and sampled from those tracks. But as we kind of moved into the programmed house, it's electronic drums with the 4 to the floor.
There's a lot of different stuff in house music. Like she said, she's like hi-hats, kicks, snares, drum beats, bass line as well. Bass line I think is one of the most important things when it comes to house music. For me, I think that's the most key element, really, bass line. But drums and bass line, yeah, definitely.
Hi, I'm Emma. I'll be showing you how to program a house beat using Logic Pro. So I've already pre-opened some Roland TR-909 drum sounds onto Logic. We're going to go ahead and program the kick sound first, which sounds like this. And we're going to play a 4 to the floor kick pattern. So the kick will play on every beat of the bar. Here we go. Okay, let's have a listen. Next up, we're going to program in the snare, which sounds like this. And this will play on the 2nd and 4th beat of the bar. Here we go. And let's have a listen. Next up, we have the closed hi-hat sound, which sounds like this. And that will play on every quaver beat like this. Let's see how that sounds. And finally, we're going to add an open hi-hat like this on every other quaver beat. Here we go. So there you have it, a basic house beat with a kick that has a 4 to the floor pattern, a snare that plays on a 2 and a 4, closed hi-hats on every quaver, and open hi-hats on every other quaver beat. Okay, there we go. And let's see what it all sounds like together. Thanks for watching. Bye.
And how, just to stick with, I guess, how you connect with house music, Reese. I mean, how does it typically make you feel when you are listening to the house?
When I hear house music, to tell the truth, it just makes me want to party. It's one of them music. It's just, no matter what you do, you just stick it on in the background, and still, no matter what you do, it gives you a good feeling. Mm-hmm. It's just like most music these days, as long as it's you're in the right frame of mood as well. But I think it's one of them genres that just it's good for the human spirit, definitely.
Yeah, I think, as Reese says, it gives you that kind of feel that you just want to kind of move around and like dance to it. It's that kind of repetitive motion, but then also there are quite a few drops and quite a lot of space that gives, so it's like a real emotional roller coaster. So you've got this kind of full on kind of party vibe, and then it gives that space, and then it kind of drops back in again. So yeah, it's really powerful music, actually.
Excellent. And I guess I'm curious, because you've already mentioned a little bit of I guess house coming out of the death of disco, and then us forming this sort of continual music and how it's developed up to Daft Punk. So how would you, I guess, describe the journey of house? How has it changed from its origins to now?
So I think one of the biggest changes in house music has been the invention of different technologies. So as I said before, a lot of early house music would have been sampled. So it would have taken the original records and used those as a basis. And then as music production has the technologies increased and improved, then there became some more kind of electronic instruments that could recreate these drum and bass sounds initially, and then kind of synthesizer sounds. So you had your Roland machines. So you had like a TR-909 drum machine, which is one of the kind of initial sounds of electronic drums. And kind of, yeah, and as it's evolved even more, like the sound is just becoming more and more modern because technology is improving. So everything's kind of sounding more modern as it moves forwards.
I think it's going to change all the time because it's one of the musics that you can mix anything with it. Like it started off with disco, then people use soul, then people use rap music with it. They can use anything with it. Like these days, they're using a lot of pop, like a lot of pop songs. There's a lot of male pop singers, female singers. There's all different types of ways you can mix it into the beats, and so I think it can go. There's no limits to house music. There ain't. So you can mix anything into it. So I think you can go anywhere. So as long as whatever's relevant and what's melody's catchy, it can go to a new level every time.
It's kind of, I think house music, there are so many different subgenres of house music. Like you've got Swedish house, your tropical house, your kind of classic house. So it's a really good vessel, I think, for other musics to kind of attach onto it. And that kind of idea of like just covering other tracks and adding kind of newer versions onto the house music is quite a universal sound. So yeah, I'm not sure I can predict where it may go to in the future, but I don't know. Reese has written quite an amazing house track, so watch this space, eh?
Here's a track that we've created specially for this episode, which has been written in the style of house music. We paired up one of our project team with someone from our Sounding Out programme to co-create this track. When you're listening to it, see if there's anything you recognise from things we've spoken about earlier in the programme, such as drum pattern.
Spend a lot of time picking in fractions and work out subliminals, taking my actions. Did I do right? Did I think of my own? But the devil keeps laughing. But you deserve better. You gotta read the signs. There's a better way. Devil read between the lines. Spend a lot of time staring at the ceiling, searching for God. Please give me a reason. What I forgot.
So this track was specially created for this program by Reese, and Emma, this is the first time you've heard this song. So I wonder what stuck out to you about it.
Oh, firstly, just want to say it's an absolutely fantastic track. I loved it. It's got all of your kind of the classic house elements. So it's got the big vocal, it's got the drum beat that you're expecting, the kind of that electronic foot to the floor sound. It's really catchy, really catchy. And I love the delay that's on the vocal as well. So you've got the staring at the ceiling. I think it's so clever. It's really, really well done.
Thank you.
Reese, obviously this song that you created has Emma's stamp of approval on it. But I wonder, when you were asked to create something specifically house, what sort of things did you know you needed to have to make it sound authentic to the genre?
Well, the guy I was working with, Tom, he was the main part of the production for it, and he said as well from when we first started, it was all to do with the kick and the snare and the beat. You know, every single song you have the kick and snare, and that's the one thing that stuck out to me as well. But for me, it's always the melody with whatever we're doing. So we started creating with the kick and the snare and making the actual pattern of what we wanted, and then he would come up with something, and I would say, like, put something here, and same thing like I did with any music really. We just try to make something that we can create something for. It's an upbeat music that will make you feel, like I said before, it's a party music. It makes you feel like, you know what, I like this. No matter what you're doing, I don't think it's one of them songs in one of the music genres that people will go, I don't like this, because it's really catchy no matter what you're doing.
Excellent. Reese, Emma, it's been just fascinating to get this musical education in-house from both of you, and to hear your track, Reese. So thank you so much, both of you, for coming on today and sharing your expertise.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Thank you for watching this episode of Playlists. I hope you enjoyed learning more about this genre of music and hearing some tracks that maybe you haven't heard before. These will give you a greater understanding of the different components that make up this musical style, as well as some ideas for creating your own song. See you next time when we'll be exploring another musical genre.